I do really believe 100% from every part of me that everyone has the capacity to be able to do the things that they want and not to be held back by the mental baggage that's in our head that we want to push through.
Welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. In each episode, we get down and personal with people who go after the things they want to make all their wildest dreams come true. Join us as we unveil and dissect a formula for what it takes to do the thing. Here is your host, Stacey Lauren.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Do the Thing podcast. This is your host, Stacey Lauren. So today you guys are going to get to meet someone so cool. I met him officially last year. We've been part of the same marketing groups for a while and sort of met each other, but we got to know each other beginning of last year. And oh my gosh, he is unbelievable. He had a career in real estate, changed careers and went into health. He even did a health summit a few months ago. That was unbelievable and just really has been just an amazing part of my own journey. He helped me normalize my identity crisis I had after I exited my business. And he's just so knowledgeable and real with the way that he's able to communicate how he feels about certain things and being able to listen. And just been amazing to get to know him. And he's the type of person that you could tell him anything and he doesn't judge you. And so anyway, so I'm excited to bring him on and have him share his story. So, hey, Ted.
What's going on?
How are you?
Doing awesome. I am enjoying a Minnesota summer for the next couple of weeks before I return to San Diego. And it's beautiful here.
Oh yeah, I know. So you're actually coming back. Yay.
I am. Yeah. No, it was good to be here. It was a nice little nervous system reset and kind of helping out with some family stuff around here. You know, my mom's gotten older and all that, but yeah, it's been beautiful. And I'm on 70 acres too. So can't argue with that.
Yeah, it's got to be amazing just to go into a whole nother experience, you know, and almost like probably disconnect and recharge and just kind of get back to nature. It's
so wild. I mean, San Diego is amazing, but there's 3 million people jammed in there, you know, between an international border, the coastline, you know, Camp Pendleton to the north, the desert to the east. And there's just a lot going on. And you come to a part of the country like this and it's like, wow, full nervous system reset.
So cool. Well, I'd love to start off and have you just tell everybody who you are and what you're all about.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'll try to keep this short because I want to try to add as much value to the people listening as possible. But long story short, I grew up on a farm in Minnesota. And after college, I relocated to California, San Diego, and I started a real estate business from scratch. And anyone who has done real estate, especially real estate sales in Southern California or San Diego, knows it's a hyper competitive environment. And if you're not from there, you didn't go to high school there, you don't have any, you know, connections. It's super hard to get going. But I did it and eventually built up a pretty successful company. And the office is still there in La Jolla, but I did multifamily investment. So what that means is I sold people apartment buildings. And then I vertically integrated the company. So we did the property management, the maintenance, the remodels, and also the sales. So there's a lot going on. And eventually I had just a spectacular case of burnout from that. I mean, it was wild. I mean, it was just, I burned out really, really bad. And we can talk about that in a bit. And through healing that burnout, which really was two parts, you know, one was physical and the other was spiritual. I completely switched gears and started a business that I'm in alignment with, which is in the natural health business. So I own 2 different supplement brands now, and occasionally, as Stacey mentioned, I'll do an online summit on some health topics. So last year's was Underground Health Summit, which was kind of about different things in quote unquote alternative health that have been suppressed or just not well known over the years. And that was a lot of fun. Had a good time doing that. And so that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And I love the word you use, finding a business in alignment, because that's one of the things I'm really trying to focus on with this podcast is, so many people are, preaching, do the thing, not necessarily those words, obviously, because that's mine. No, just kidding. But, do the thing and then hustle, hustle, hustle. But what I'm really trying to add into this podcast is doing the thing and doing what you want, but doing it out of your own personal alignment. And so I love that you mentioned that, because I think that's so important.
Yeah. It's funny. There's two sides to that coin, right? Because there's a lot of popular advice, which is follow your passion and, the money will find you. And as most of us know, that's not necessarily true. It doesn't always find you if you follow your passion. Sometimes my passion is sleeping in till 11 and reading all day. No one's going to pay me for that if that's my passion, right? And sometimes it is. On the other hand, if you're just very mercenary about what you do for work and compensation, and you're chained to this golden treadmill, which is what I like to call it. That was my old real estate business. That's not good either, because I was making a lot of money pretty easily. But I couldn't get off the treadmill. It was a nightmare.
Yeah. And I definitely want to get into what you're doing now, but I thought we could talk first about the real estate business.
Mm-hmm.
So you came from a farm in Minnesota, went to college, and then you started this business. So how did you basically get the courage to start that business?
Well, that's super easy. I had a liberal arts degree, and nobody will hire you. It's literally, even in the 90s, I'm 44 now, but even in the 90s or 2000, when I graduated, it wasn't worth anything. Right. And I went to school for a sport. So I had a partial scholarship for what is called Olympic style Taekwondo. So there's two martial arts in the Olympics, judo and Taekwondo. And Taekwondo is the hitting one where you punch and kick people. So that's the one that I did. And I had some bad injuries. I never made it to the international level, but I was a national level competitor for 4 years. And through that, we traveled all over the country doing tournaments. And so I came to California quite often, and I really liked it. And the only thing I knew was the further south I went in California, the more I liked it, because most of our tournaments were in Berkeley, in the Bay Area at UC Berkeley. And then we'd go to LA, and I'm like, oh man, this is great. And, San Diego must be even better. And so I just, through the lack of, I grew up in the same system that a lot of people do, which is more education is better. And if you get good grades and you follow orders and you do what you're told, you're going to be fine. And the truth is, especially for nowadays, it's gotten even worse. That's not true. If you have a university degree, it really doesn't mean anything, because everybody has one. And that was the case even, back in 99, 2000. So I was just like, all right, well, what do you do here? And I originally was working on boats. I literally was in San Diego because I picked the location I wanted to be in before the job, which I could do because nobody would hire me. Right. And so I was like, all right, I'll go to San Diego and I'll figure it out. And yeah, I literally was working at Knight and Carver's shipyard, hacking barnacles off of boats.
Oh, wow.
And then I, of course, like most people do that don't have a lot of opportunities, you think, oh, I can get into real estate. You can sell a couple properties a year and you're rich, right? You're set for the year. That's just, if you've never done it, that's kind of how you think about it. And, me being 21 or 22 or whatever I was at the time, I'm like, that makes sense. I know some people have made some money in it. So I just went and did it. And it's not necessarily an industry I'd recommend for anyone. But what was cool about real estate is that when I started, that was a sales position. And if you are selling something to somebody, you can't really have any like weird pathological things going on in your unconscious, like huge self-doubt or lack of confidence, or you're afraid of money, or like all these things that can kind of come up for people. Like any sales position anywhere is like a big mirror for that stuff. And so through that, I found out there's all these like success resources, like, you can learn how to sell. And like back then it was like guys like Tom Hopkins or Zig Ziglar, or, some of the people that were teaching, how to sell back then. And then you get into mindset stuff and Tony Robbins and all that. And that was the trajectory.
Yeah. And so with your risk assessment, when you said, I just went ahead and did it. So when you decided to open up your real estate company and
Yes.
then had to overcome a lot of your own stuff,
Yep.
to be able to be successful at it. And I was just wondering if there was any other kind of risk assessment that you did to actually be able to do it.
That's a good question. There was constant risk assessment all the time. There's an interesting statistic. I forget the exact numbers, so I'm going to paraphrase it, but most people have gone through a bankruptcy. They make their money back 4 times as fast. And the reason why is because they realize, and their unconscious realizes, that didn't kill them. And so they lost everything and they didn't die. If that's never happened to you before, like everything seems deathly serious, especially with finances. And back then, it got pretty grim at times. I had to borrow money to eat or put gas in the car to go show a property, or taking out loans from friends to try to, keep this thing going. And I had been through so many kind of boom and bust cycles. By the time I decided to start a company, I was like, oh, I've already lost and made money so many times, even on a micro scale. Like, this can't be that bad,
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because like through these interviews, I've actually talked to several people that have gone bankrupt, and they went through their bankruptcy story and they did make
Yep.
4 times more their money, but I hadn't connected together like why they were successful. And you're right. It's like that uncertainty of what's going to happen. It became certain. Well, I didn't die.
You didn't die. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't die. And that I had that at a young age, because I didn't have any family support. I didn't have anything. It was like every day it was make it or break it. Like, how am I going to pay rent this month? How am I going to find food to eat? How am I going to pay the expenses that my business requires so I can keep functioning and doing this? I also graduated right when 9/11 happened, right in that era. And so that takes a liberal arts degree and doubles down on how useless it is. Because maybe a lot of people don't remember or weren't old enough, but the economy was not good at that time. And so coming out of university with that already, you just kind of know, you just go for it, because my mindset was, what, like, I don't have the financial success yet, but I do live in this awesome place. And that was usually more than enough payoff for all the pain,
Oh, totally. And so as you were going through this with the real estate business,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think was the hardest thing for you as you were building it and scaling it and all that stuff?
That's a really good question. And an easy one would be uncertainty, because of course it's uncertain. There's this thing where a lot of people think that you should plan and then you should execute on that. And then, and the hardest thing for me to learn was act, then know, then decide. And another way to say that is ready, fire, aim. A guy named Michael Masterson, he's the owner of Agora. They do like $3 billion a year in newsletters. No one's ever heard of him. But he wrote a book called Ready, Fire, Aim. And I think it's easier to understand act, then know, then decide. And that was probably the hardest thing, because coming out of a, academic environment, as well as an athletic environment where I had coaches and I did exactly what they told me to, I had to deconstruct that mindset. And it's a little bit like the Wild West in business, like where you're just throwing shit against the wall and you're seeing what sticks, right? And then based on that information, then you take your next action. So for real estate, I realized that I was in a red ocean. My ocean was it was filled with blood from all the sharks, but I wanted to be in the blue ocean. And so through Dan Kennedy style direct response marketing, I learned about niching your business down. And so at first I didn't want to do it because I'm like, oh, I'm limiting myself, but as soon as I niched my business down, it dramatically increased. And then I built a whole company around that. So yeah, I would say that it's like, it's adopting, like abandoning the old mindset of like being really cautious and planning everything and then executing the plan and just focusing on action and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I love that. I love act, know, and decide. I think that's so cool. And actually, it's funny. I had Scott on last week, and he was talking about that concept of, as an entrepreneur, like we jump off the building and we're building the parachute.
Yes,
and that's what that makes me think of.
100%. Yeah. And deconstructing that mindset is challenging for a lot of people, and it was challenging for me. I would say the other biggest challenge I had was starting that company. And, I know this is common, but, I thought I could avoid it, but I didn't. And it's, I had a lot of challenges with my business partner. And, when you're in this high stress environment and you start making money and there's a lot of money coming in, and if you don't get along with your business partner, and more importantly than that, if your business partner does not share the same core values that you do, you're going to have problems. And we did. And it's funny because we had been, we'd known each other for forever. And we had so much strife, and it was just not necessary. And the thing that was kind of hard for me to accept, and it took me years to figure this out, is different people start businesses for different reasons. And those don't always match your reasons. My reason to start a business was really simple. I wanted to make as much money as possible. And I wanted to do that by adding value to whoever I was doing business with. I really believe in doing that. And then if you really add a lot of value to people, you really bend over backwards to solve their problem, like you're going to be compensated adequately. And, my business partner did not think like that. He got into business I know this sounds crazy, but he got into business for ego reasons, to look cool, to have an office, to be able to boss people around and have a receptionist and like do all that kind of stuff. And it was just stunning to me. And that caused a lot of problems in our business.
Yeah. And what a great learning for you too, is to understand that differentiation between values and passion and knowing it really probably got you even more in tune with what you want by getting to see what he wanted.
Yeah. And I'll never forget when I figured that out, because we got into an argument about something. I think it was, because I would generate the business, right? So I did the lead generation, and then I would sell them a building, and then I would hand it off to him to do the remodel and the management. And he wasn't returning one of my clients' phone calls, and this is the guy that had spent millions of dollars with us, like high level dude. And so then I start getting blown up by him all the time because my partner wasn't responding to any of his texts, none of his emails, none of his calls. And we were talking like days. And so then I finally confronted my ex-partner about it. And it was just all ego. He's like, well, I just didn't feel like taking the calls. He calls me at inappropriate times and this and that. And I'm like, no, dude, the buck stops with us. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 9:30 at night. It doesn't matter if it's like 6:30 in the morning. Like, you got to respond to these guys. Like, these clients we're dealing with are not, I mean, like, this particular guy was like a high powered corporate attorney. They're not the type of people you want to mess with, because you'll get sued and they'll take you for all you got. And, we got into that, and he threw his phone at me out in the parking lot after yelling. And I said, you know what? You got into business just to look cool and for your ego. And he was quiet for a while, and he said, you're right.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Wow.
It was just nuts.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is perfect. So now, well, not that perfect, but perfect lead in for you getting off this golden treadmill, right?
Yeah.
And now you're to the point where, I mean, now I can understand even more with the burnout, where that would come from, because you're in this sort of, I don't know, you didn't say this, but toxic kind of situation also, of the hustle of real estate and what that had to be like. So let's talk about that, this next phase where you're burnt out and you're kind of going into that healing journey.
Yep. Well, I think you can identify with this, Stacy, is that, if you really go hard in business, a lot of times your entire identity is sort of attached to that business. And, my identity was attached to being this commercial real estate guy that had success. And like, I had a cool office in La Jolla, and it was really modern. And, I was a big fish in a small pond. My niche of real estate wasn't huge, but everybody in that niche knew me, and, I got referrals all the time and felt important. And, my identity was kind of hooked to that. That's how everybody knew me. That's how I knew myself. And so it took longer than I wanted to unhook my identity from the business and start to build a new one. Is that something that kind of resonates with you a little bit?
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm still going through it, honestly.
Yeah. So I had to kind of deconstruct that. So this might sound trite, but it's kind of funny. Maybe some people identify with this, maybe not. Maybe it'll inspire some people to give it a shot. But so basically, here's what happened. At the end of this journey, I was making more money more easily than, I ever would have guessed. And I had everything you would want at that age as a guy. And it's kind of the analogy I use is like, I climbed this mountain that I always wanted to climb in life. And then I got to the top and I looked around, and then I realized I climbed the wrong fucking mountain.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I got to the top and I'm like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And in fact, all the people I know that are doing this, that are in their, mid to late 40s to 50s and beyond, they have major health problems. They hate it. And they're just resigned to doing it. Like, I didn't meet one person that liked doing it, not one. And in fact, I knew a few people. I knew one guy that committed suicide. I knew several that had heart problems, cancer. I knew a lot of drug and alcohol use, because it just breaks people. And so I got to the top of the mountain. I looked around and I'm like, shit, I climbed the wrong one. So I basically, right at that time, my friend, and I think Brad, Brad was a very, very successful real estate investor in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he personally owned something like 38 properties, and he lost them all during the crash of 2008 because he was over leveraged. And, Brad went through his own healing journey, but a big part of it for him was Tony Robbins. He went to like 4 Tony Robbins events a year for like 2 years. I mean, it's something crazy. And he's like, hey, Tony Robbins is doing an event called Unleash the Power Within in LA. Like, you're going to go, you need to go. Cause I was just depressed, sad, weird, but still in real estate, but just not expanding the business. I was just reacting to what came in and just not really knowing what to do. And so I bought a ticket, and then the time came and I was like, dude, I don't want to go. Like, this is stupid. I don't want to go to a motivational seminar. And he's like, no, just go. So he convinced me to go. So we drive up there to LA, and I see the registration line, and it literally wraps around the block. And the blocks in LA are huge. So it's like this massive sidewalk full of people, and it goes all the way around the corner. And I'm like, dude, I'm not waiting in line. This is ridiculous. Like, I don't wait in lines. I'm going to go to the hotel and just work and hit the bar, like whatever. I don't care. And he said, no, let's get in line. So we get in line. To try to leave a couple times, convinced me to stay. I finally get registered. And we go there the next morning, and I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Cause it was like motivational. And I tried to leave early. He got me to stay. You got to give Brad credit here. And then we go into day 2. And then by the end of day 2, something in me just finally broke. And I think it was like, if something Tony said from the stage, actually, it was, he said, if you own a business and it's not growing, then it's dying. And there's a reason for that. And I hadn't expanded my business in like a few years. I was just reacting to what came in. And that really resonated with me, because I'm like, man, I don't want to be, in my late 30s or whatever, and resigned to doing this for the rest of my life, because I never gave it a shot. And then he did this, I think it was day 3. I can't remember. It all blends into one now. But he did this exercise. I think he does this at most of his events. It's called the Dickens exercise. And it's kind of like just working with your unconscious to see what's in alignment with your unconscious and what's not. And, for me, what came out of doing that exercise was, I need to get off this golden treadmill. This sucks. Like, I don't want to run a service business anymore. I don't want to deal with these people. I don't want to deal with my business partner. Like, it's just, everything is toxic. Like, and it create my toxicity in my business created toxicity in me, both on a spiritual level and physical, like I was physically pretty wrecked from the burnout. And that would leak out into my personal relationships too. I had been in a relationship for 5 years and thought that was all right. But, that ended, mainly because of, a lot of the way that I was from that. And my business was kind of over it. And so that's when I decided to make a change. It was there. And then after that was the first thing I focused on was getting physically healthy. Is that and eliminating the burnout starting physically? Is that something you want to hear a little more about? Or
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, please.
Okay. Let me grab a sip of water here.
Yeah. And yay for Brad, man. That guy, are you still friends with him?
Oh yeah. I talk to Brad all the time. Yeah.
That's awesome. He's like what Chrissy is for me, I think, probably to you.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a really inspiring guy. I mean, he had so much stress.
It's like that balance, right, with your friends, because that is one piece of the formula of doing the thing is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. And it's like having those people in your life that don't just let you, not go and stand in the registration line, right? Like they actually can challenge you, but not in a way that's like judgmental or disrespectful.
Yeah, he was just positive.
Yeah. So it's cool. But yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Let's talk about the physical part, because I'm really excited to hear more.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. So for people listening who are burnt out, this is a core concept that I didn't know about at first. And it really blew me away. So psychological stress causes inflammation in your body. And a lot of people don't know that. And I'll repeat it again. Psychological stress or mental stress creates physical inflammation in your body. And inflammation is a root cause. And a lot of experts will say it's the root cause of all disease. And where it causes inflammation in particular is your brain. And that's a huge problem. Depression is linked to brain inflammation. And there's dozens and dozens of studies on this. So my brain was really inflamed. And what I was doing as a lifestyle wasn't helping it. Like I was, I would have a tremendous amount of caffeine during the day and yerba mate and stimulant drinks. And then I couldn't sleep at night. And so then I'd have drinks. And it was also because, I was working so much, I had crazy work hours. And so, 6 p.m. would roll around, and that's when I could finally start the real work of responding to emails and doing research and stuff. And so I would have drinks to wind down. And then eventually that turned into having a lot of drinks. And then I would need the stimulants to wake up. And it's just a self-reinforcing feedback loop. And it just gets worse and worse over time. And, my diet wasn't great. I didn't even have time to work out. And I was just dealing with tons of stress all the time, which is creating systemic inflammation in my body. So psychological stress also creates a leaky gut. And that means what is supposed to be inside your gut can leak out into your interstitial fluid. And then it's circulated throughout your whole body. And that doubles down on the amount of inflammation. So I was inflamed. And I had an inflamed brain. And so what that means is I had mild cognitive disorders. So like my short-term memory was terrible. I would pay for groceries and walk out of the grocery store, leave an entire bag of groceries at the checkout, get in my car, drive home, not even remember that I was at the grocery store. I'd like remember it the next morning. I mean, just crazy stuff like that. That's just an example of how inflamed I was. I was short-tempered. I would get frustrated really easily. Had a couple road rage incidents. Just couldn't focus. That's a big symptom of an inflamed brain, is lack of ability to focus. So I'd have to ritualize my work. I would have to have the music just right, the lighting just right, door closed, headphones on. I'd have to use a Pomodoro timer. I'm sure a lot of people listening know about the 25-5 or 55-5 Pomodoro method, where you work for 25 minutes straight, can't do anything except work, and then you take a 5-minute break and you get right back on it. Those are just coping mechanisms. If your brain is working well and it's well regulated, you don't need to do that. You just sit down and work. It's not a big deal. And so the first thing I focused on was my brain. And just to make a long story short, like I found out that there basically is a cellular model of health. So a lot of people focus on treating their muscles, or they just treat their brain, or they try to treat their liver, or just their skin. And that's too big of a level. You got to go all the way down to the basics. And the basic is the cell. So if you can fix one cell, you can fix them all. And then your body's own native healing intelligence will take over. So I focused on essentially like cellular detox and cellular nutrition. And through that, I was able to increase the energy output of my cells. And in particular, your cells have little rechargeable batteries in them. They're called mitochondria. And your brain has the most of those. Your heart has the second most amount of mitochondria. And so I basically fed those, mitochondria, those little rechargeable batteries, everything I could to recharge them, detox them, keep them fueled up. And that turns stuff around like really fast. Like in the first interventions I did, I mean, we're talking like hours. Like I felt different in like literal hours. And then I quit caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, sugar all on the same day. I don't recommend doing that.
All or nothing, baby.
Yeah, I just went all in. And then, so of course I could go on a whole podcast about, what I did for the health stuff. But basically I started feeling a lot better really fast, and my body was detoxing. I had way more energy. My sleep was fixed. My brain started to become more regulated. And then I had to turn my attention to what am I doing for work? And I'll tell you what, I don't regret doing this. If I could do it over again, I'd probably change a couple things, but I was so burnt out, on a physical, but also kind of a spiritual level. I lived in this 3-bedroom place with a 2-car garage by myself for like a year and a half. 2 years. I basically just, it sounds crazy, but cause I'd accumulated enough capital to be able to do this. Basically I just took a year and a half off. And all I did is focus on getting healthy and figuring out what I was going to do for work. And I would just get up at like 5:30 in the morning and just research health topics of interest, learn, apply to myself, and like kind of find yourself. If I could do it over again, I would compress that time frame down a lot more. But I think at the time I kind of needed it. It was alone time. I was able to explore all these different healing modalities because I went all in. I didn't just do physical stuff. I did emotional stuff. I did psychedelics. I did all the cellular health stuff. I did crazy brain stuff like neurofeedback and all the things, right? And just basically did a complete reset. And, one of the things that came to me is, once I got past the physical burnout, I realized that you have to do something that is in alignment with your core values. And real estate was not in alignment with my core values. It's just not the healthiest of industries. We'll put it that way. There's a lot of fraud. It's just not good. And it just, the type of people it attracts, there are some wonderful folks in it for sure. But the majority of people, especially in the sectors that I worked in, it's just not good people to be around. And they don't share the same values as I do. So I decided I wanted a health business and that I wanted to run online. And so what that would give me is I wanted to be geo independent. So I no longer wanted to be, tied to a small geographic area, because one of the problems with real estate is if you leave, business would always come up and you have to physically be there. You have to be able to go see the property. You have to inspect it. You have to do all these things, and people freak out. And so like you can lose 3 months, 6 months, a year's worth of work in somebody if you happen to go on vacation that week. And so I no longer wanted to deal with that. And then, real estate is one of those industries that's been around for a long time in its current form. And one of the issues with it is the amount of regulation. It is actually crazy that I had to pay something like 4 different associations for the right to do business. So I had to pay a national association, I had to pay a state one, I had to pay a county one, and I had to pay a local association. And then I had to pay all their, subscriptions for other tools that they force you to use just for the right to do business. And that never sat well with me. Like, why do I have to pay the government? There's actually a 5th fee. Yeah, you have to be licensed by the state to do real estate. And why should I have to pay them for the right to do business? Why are they telling me how to run my business? It doesn't make sense. Like these associations and stuff, I'm like, hang on a second. So I'm the one that pays for all the marketing. I generate the client, I sell them the property, I generate the data, and I have to pay you for the right to access my own data that I generated. It doesn't make sense. So I want to be in a business where there is still a lot of, blue ocean, it's like you can do anything. If you have an online business, really, I mean, it's up to you what offer you want to offer and how you implement that and how you charge people for it and how you get to decide how you want to add value to people. And so that was kind of that evolution.
Yeah. And I loved that you used your annoyance in the real estate industry to really fine tune, like what you actually wanted to do and then do something that's truly coming from that place of alignment, and I also, it's so cool that like you had these things happening to yourself, with the short-term memory and the not being able to focus and the short-tempered and all of this stuff. And then you were able to figure out like, oh, it's my brain. I don't, a lot of people would have gone there first. And I just think that's so like, it just shows the amount of education and knowledge that you had to get to even start there.
Well, here's something that I think could resonate with a lot of people who own businesses or want to own a business or in some sort of entrepreneurial pursuit is that, what's crazy is I would have this lack of willpower, right? So I would see this stack of emails and I'd be like, oh man. And I just couldn't just sit down and do them. I'd have to have a drink or I'd have to have a bunch of caffeine or some nicotine or something. And then that was my crutch to get through it. And I would be so hard on myself. I'd say, well, you just don't have the willpower. And originally, long before I went to Tony Robbins, I was reading self-help books and going to seminars, and like they had a very Western approach, which I call a top-down approach. So what they do is they say, well, it's all in your head. So if you change your mindset, if you change your beliefs, then your life's going to change. And that is true to a certain extent. But what happens with most people that go to a motivational seminar like that? They're super jazzed for like 2 or 3 days and they go completely back to normal and they're back to their same habits because nothing really changed. And what I realized is that I didn't have a procrastination problem. I had a willpower problem. And the willpower is not generated from what you think. It's generated from the little rechargeable batteries in your cells. So I didn't have a, here's an easy way to sum it up for people listening. I didn't have a procrastination problem. I had an energy problem. And it was not a mental problem. It was a physical energy. So just to restate, I didn't have a procrastination problem. I didn't have a willpower problem. I had a physical energy problem because willpower is generated from the amount of energy your cells produce. It's that simple. So why do you choose, or when do you choose to sit down with your phone and idly scroll through stories on Instagram? It's probably when you're tired and you want to relax. When do you sit down and read a self-help book or a business article or kind of a more difficult thing to read? It's when you have energy, right? And so I just decided to focus on having more energy all the time. Like literally, that was my sole focus. Like, how do I get my cells to produce more energy? And then that in turn took care of the procrastination problem. It evaporated. It also increased my mood. And so that went away. My inflammation went down, and it costs a tremendous amount of energy for your body to address inflammation. So when you bring inflammation down, it releases more energy for other things like your brain. And so it really comes down to that. You don't even need to focus on a specific organ. You just need to focus on giving your cells as much energy as possible.
Yeah. So what have been your best ways to get more energy?
That's a great question. And I want to give people some stuff they can take and use and some resources too, that you could literally do right after the podcast. So there's all kinds of things, right? And so I'm going to start with the basic free ones, and then we'll scale up a little bit into, stuff you can hop online and order. So kind of the biggest needle movers for cellular energy is really two things. So you have to detox your cells, and we can do a whole podcast on why this is important, but basically you have to look at toxins as these things that drain energy from your cells. And they quite literally drain energy from your cells. Most people don't know this, but fundamentally, we run on an electron transport chain. So we run on tiny microcurrents of electricity. That is what is underneath the chemical ATP cycle that is commonly quoted as our cellular energy source. But there is no chemical reaction without the movement of electrical charge first. So fundamentally, those little rechargeable batteries that are inside our cells, the mitochondria, they run on electricity, quite literally. We're electrical beings. And so toxins, what they do is they drain those batteries down really fast. And so you have to remove toxins. And then most people are really nutrient deficient, which means that imagine the batteries have wires and they're really corroded, or the wires are non-existent. That's the same way you could look at it as, lacking certain nutrients at a cellular level. So let's just start easy, and then we'll kind of scale up. So, here's some really good free ones. You should, at a minimum, be getting 20 minutes of sunshine on 60% of your body or more. Your skin, believe it or not, it generates electrons from sunlight hitting it. This is what Einstein actually won a Nobel Prize for. It was not his theory of relativity, but it was the fact that sunlight can strike certain materials and stimulate the flow of electrons. And that's what sunlight does for us. Another thing you can do, and this is basic, but it's necessary. You don't have to do it for 30 minutes, but you need to go outside at least once a day and put your bare feet on the ground. And that's going to drain all the bad electrical charges built up on your body from EMF. It'll dump it into the ground. That's what's called earthing or grounding. And so it's going to allow your body's own electrical system to normalize once you dump that excess not helpful charge that you build up on your body from using touch screens and being in front of Wi-Fi all day.
Are you like on your feet on the ground, like anything outside, or does it have to be grass, or what's your?
Grass is best. Concrete will work because concrete has a lot of water in it. Blacktop doesn't work because it's insulated. It's a petroleum product.
And so it's bare feet, right?
Yep, bare feet. Okay. Yep. So your feet actually are packed with something like 200 sweat glands per square inch or something, more than any other area in the body. And that is one of the reasons why it can make a good electrical contact with the earth. And so those two are free, super easy. And if you're disciplined about them over time, you will notice a shift from that. And then, of course, exercise is super important. And I include walking and exercise, and walking is dual purpose. So let's just start with movement in general. We have this tissue throughout our body. It's still not that well understood today. It's called fascia. Fascia is piezoelectric. That means that when it's stressed or compressed or stretched, the mechanical action that creates electrons actually generates electrons in your body. And your body will take those electrons and it'll route them to where they're needed. So if you have an area of inflammation, let's say it's your brain or your gut, it'll actually route them preferentially to that area to bring the inflammation down. So any sort of exercise helps recharge your cellular batteries. That's why sometimes people feel kind of high or they feel really good after exercising. It's because they've literally internally generated all these electrons. And if you exercise outside in the sunlight, you're doubling down on that effect. Walking is really what our bodies were designed to do. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans have been walking to pretty much do anything. And so our whole bodies are kind of designed around walking. You have to look at movement, and especially walking, as like a missing micronutrient for the body.
Yeah. And I saw this incredible video. I don't know if you've heard of, I think his name is Gil Hadley. He has a video on fascia and how it builds up the fuzz in your body when you don't move it, and it can like lock and tighten. And I don't think I ever was able to like understand why it was so important for you to move your body, even if you're sore or not feeling good, until I saw that video. But I just thought I'd mention that. Yeah.
Fascia it's incredible. I mean, there's all kinds of fascial techniques and things you can do. But what is neat about fascia is that it's a communication network inside the body. It also routes water, which has microtubules in it, and it routes exclusion zone or structured water to different areas in the body as well. But walking does two things. So one, it generates electrons by moving your fascia around, and then it pumps your lymph. And so lymph is a detox system, and it helps eliminate toxins. I mean, it's not like super hardcore, but if you walk often, you do help detoxify your body. And so those are like what I would call like the bare kind of minimum basics to try to get in daily. So just a quick recap, try to get 20 minutes of sunshine on 60% of your body or more once a day. Go outside at least once a day in bare feet on concrete or grass or dirt to dump excess bad electrical charge that accumulates in your body from EMF into the ground, allowing your electrical systems to normalize. And then exercise generates electrons from the movement of the fascia. And then walking does that, plus it moves your lymph around, which helps detox. Now, to get into stuff that people can do right away, for the micronutrient side, these are really common ones that nearly everyone is deficient in. And they're super cheap, easy to get, doesn't cost anything. You're golden. So vitamins A, D, and K, these are huge. And the last 2 years, I've seen so much in popular media telling everybody to get vitamin D. And so you have these people taking like 50,000 IU of vitamin D in isolation, which is just crazy because it's going to cause a lot of heart disease in the next few years. So vitamins A, D, and K, they work together. So the thing about vitamin D is that when you take it, it liberates calcium in your body. And most people's calcium metabolisms are messed up. That's why we have so much heart disease. Without vitamin K2, the calcium doesn't know where to go. So K2 is like a traffic cop at a busy intersection pointing at cars, telling them where to go and when to go. That's K2. So when you take vitamin D, it liberates all this calcium from your tissues, it dumps it in your bloodstream. And then if it doesn't have K2 along with it, it settles in your arteries. And that is why in older people, particularly men 60 or over, their freaking vascular system, especially around their heart and those big arteries, it shows up on an X-ray. Like, think about that. Like, this is supposed to be soft, flexible tissue, and it shows up on a freaking X-ray.
Wow.
It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
It's because of their calcium. And that's also why a lot of older guys have ED, erectile dysfunction, is because they had calcium accumulate in the really tiny complex web of blood vessels in their penis. And it literally blocks blood flow. And that's like a common problem of ED for older guys. So whenever you take vitamin D, you need to take a vitamin K2, especially, and you also need to take it with A, because vitamin D depletes A. What does vitamin A do? Vitamin A is the vitamin that if you ever had dry or itchy eyes, that means you're deficient in vitamin A. And it helps heal like the membranous tissue in your body. So like the inside of your mouth or the inside of your nose or like the inside of your intestines, like it helps repair that. And, vitamin D, K, and A, they're also substrate for healthy female and male hormones. And so they're like the building blocks. You need to have a good ratio of these and an amount of them in your body so your hormones don't get messed up. And just speaking from a male perspective, like think how many guys you see, even in their 20s now, that look like old men. They have these estrogenic fat deposits around their abdomen. They have man boobs. They're balding already, like in their 20s. It's crazy. You didn't see that when I was in college, in the 90s, it wasn't as prevalent. Now it's everywhere.
Yeah. Is there anything that combines them all together?
So there is. So yeah, I'm going to give you how to execute on this right now. Yeah. This is not just theory. This is listen to this and then you can go and take action on it.
So cool.
So here's what I do. So, with vitamin D, the free source is sunlight, but I do realize you're not always able to do that. So I get vitamin D and vitamin A from cod liver oil. They exist in perfect ratio to one another in cod liver oil. And cod liver oil has this crazy benefit, especially for business owners, especially for entrepreneurs, especially for people that use their brains a lot. It has DHA in it. DHA is this amazing, amazing molecule that has not changed in millions of years of evolution. It has stayed the same, which means that it's perfect the way it is. And our body's responses to it have not changed over that period of time too. DHA increases electrical conductivity in your brain. It's amazing. And it helps remyelinate your brain. It helps make it more electrically conductive, and it does it fast, and it does it on the long term as well. It basically just helps protect your brain. Your brain incorporates it. And so as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as somebody that is thinking a lot, you need DHA and you need it every day. So cod liver oil has D, it has A, and it has DHA. It's a no-brainer. The trick with cod liver oil is that most of it that is sold in capsules is rancid. It's already oxidized. That's why it's in capsules, because you can't smell or taste it. So avoid capsules. And there's only a handful of brands that are trustworthy. So for people listening, Green Pastures is one of the best. Green Pastures cod liver oil, that's like top tier, really good stuff. If you're just running to the store and you're looking for something you can get off the shelf, most places will have Garden of Life. That's a decent one. And Nordic Naturals is decent. But the two top tier would be Green Pastures. And then if you're brave enough, and you got to be brave for this, but I'm telling you, if you want to turn your brain on and have the best day ever, go get yourself some Rosita Real Foods raw fermented cod liver oil. It tastes horrible. It is awful, but you will feel your brain turn on like it hasn't in probably years.
Wow.
It's incredible. So just quick recap, Rosita Real Foods is the raw fermented cod liver oil. Then there's Green Pastures, Those are the two top tier. And then if you go down a couple levels and you just want to run into the store and grab something, that was Garden of Life and Nordic Naturals. So the next question is, great, where do I get my A? Well, synthetic A is not very good. And in fact, synthetic vitamin D isn't good. Synthetic vitamin D is made from something called cholecalciferol, which is actually used in rat poison. It's made from sheep wool lanolin. Last time I checked, sheep wool lanolin is not something that we're supposed to be eating. Yeah, it's the major ingredient in rat poison.
Oh my gosh.
That's insane. Yeah. So, so if you buy a vitamin D pill, it has cholecalciferol in it. And if you go look up the main ingredient in rat poison, it's the same thing. Kind of blows people away. So I use cod liver oil for that. If you don't want to use cod liver oil, you can buy mushrooms if they're fresh. And if you lay them out in the sunlight for 20 minutes, it'll dramatically increase their vitamin D content like 100-fold. It's a lot. But the mushrooms have to be fresh. So that is another option to get your vitamin D. Vitamin A you get from grass-fed dairy. So for me, I use a grass-fed butter for that. So when I have my morning tea, sometimes once in a while I have coffee, I'll blend up a tablespoon of butter in that and just drink it down. But if you have breakfast in the morning, just make sure you get a tablespoon of grass-fed butter and there's your A for the day. Super easy. These are the most bioavailable methods to get A, D, and K. The synthetic stuff can work in a pinch, but long-term, it's just not good for your liver and kidneys. So that's kind of my take. Sometimes people say, well, if I'm traveling, what do I do for my A, D, and K? You can get some synthetic versions. There's one that comes in a dropper bottle from a company called healthnatura.com. And they make a good ADK. That's the one that I use when I travel. So that's a good company to use as well. That's a compounding pharmacy, basically, the people that own that, and they have some good stuff on there. So now let's get into the other nutrients, because I realized I went pretty deep into A, D, and K, but I just want people to take action on this, because you will feel different within hours once you start adding this to your diet. Iodine is a big one. So iodine is used by your brain a lot. Most people are very iodine deficient, especially people who sweat. So go get yourself some Lugol's iodine. Dr. Lugol was around over 200 years ago in France. He figured out that you can make potassium much more bioavailable or cell available by mixing it with potassium. And so Lugol's iodine is a type. It's not a brand. You can get it, pretty much anywhere. Just look for Lugol's iodine and make sure that it is kind of brownish in color. And what those labels say is not accurate. It'll say 2 or 3 drops. You need a dropper full a day, and you want to take it in the morning because it's going to make you very alert at first, especially. Once your brain's topped off, your thyroid starts using it. And most people's thyroids are messed up because they've been exposed to so much fluoride through drinking water. And chlorine too is a halide. They attach to the iodine receptor sites in your thyroid, and your thyroid releases something called thyroid stimulating hormone that controls the energy levels of all of the cells in your body. It's kind of like a variable light switch. Those switches on the wall, you can grab the little plastic circle and you turn it to the left or the right, and the lights get dimmer or more bright. That's your thyroid. That's that thyroid hormone for every cell in your body. And so when you start taking iodine, it selectively attaches to those receptor sites and starts pushing out the fluoride and the other synthetic halides that we're exposed to. And you'll feel your energy levels go up. So just a quick recap on iodine: it's brain function, and it's your energy levels in your body. And of course, it helps with your immune system a lot. And these are super cheap, by the way. Like, all of this stuff's not that expensive, especially iodine. It's like really cheap. There's no reason not to take it every day.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, Ted, do you have a link also, in addition to like talking about it here, do you have a link to these on your website?
No, these are, I don't sell any of these. These, yeah, I do have some specific supplements. They're more kind of on the specialty or niche end.
Okay.
I can provide a link for one of them we're going to talk about here.
Cool.
But it's like a higher dose program. But, and then just to get into the next ones, I don't recommend taking synthetic B vitamins. Most of them are pretty toxic. They've been linked to cancer quite a bit, actually. And B vitamin research stopped after World War II. So people think there's only like 12 B vitamins, B3, B6, B12, right? There's actually hundreds. And they're really only found in their natural form in meat. So if you eat, a decent amount of meat semi-regularly or regularly, you're going to have more than enough B vitamins in their most bioavailable form. So that's where you go for your B vitamins. And then getting into the last two that you definitely need to have. So magnesium, huge. Most people have kind of heard of magnesium at this point. It's been hyped a lot the last few years. It's something like 96% of people in North America are deficient in it.
Wow.
And stress burns magnesium like crazy. So stress burns up magnesium in your body at a really fast clip. And there's many different forms of magnesium, but probably the one that you should start with is a form called magnesium chloride. So magnesium chloride is by far the most bioavailable. And when you first start using it, you might feel literally a sense of mild euphoria, and your focus is going to be really good. And so magnesium chloride, it's not one of the easiest ones to find. It's difficult to manufacture. There's basically two different forms of it. There's an ionic form. There's one company I know of that I recommend that's good. They're called Remag. So REMAG. That's the product name. And the name of the company is RNA Reset. That's by Dr. Carolyn Dean. She was the first to really write a book on magnesium and talk about how everyone was deficient in it, way back in the day. So that's an ionic one. You take like a little shot of it in water. And then the other forms of magnesium chloride are going to come in like sprays or lotions you apply to your skin after a shower, which actually is a really good way to do it because it skips digestion and it just goes straight into your bloodstream.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's instant. Other forms, if you start getting crazy with it, there's like 16 different forms. You just want to make sure they're elemental forms of magnesium. Elemental basically means they're more bioavailable. And one of the issues in the magnesium industry is, I hate to say this, but it's true. A lot of supplement companies are pretty shady, and they literally just give you a chelated form of the metal. So like you're ingesting this metal in your body and your body can only use like less than 1% of it. And then the rest just accumulates in your fatty tissue as a toxin for elimination. It's really not good. So just keep in mind, if you're going to go different, look for elemental ones. So elemental magnesium, there's magnesium citrate, there's magnesium L-threonate, there's orotate. There's different forms of elemental, but if you can find it, get magnesium chloride. It'll change your life. And then the final one I'll finish on is vitamin C. This is one of the most studied vitamins on the planet. It's been extensively studied for over 100 years. It was first discovered, I think, in 1927. And it's been studied quite a bit ever since. Vitamin C is kind of like a Swiss Army knife. It does everything in your body. But at a fundamental level, if you just want to get right down to what it does, is that it's a very strong electron donor to your cells. So imagine vitamin C is like a big battery charger, and it recharges your cells, little batteries. That's what it does. And because it does that at such a base level, it eliminates a lot of other problems. And in a particular note to people who own businesses or want to, or in sales positions, you might be experiencing excess cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It causes procrastination, weight gain, irritability, low mood. Fascinating thing about vitamin C is it actually pulls excess cortisol out of your body, literally just cancels it out. And a German study was done where they put people in stressful situations. God knows what the Germans were up to, but in this case, it was public speaking. And they were doing live blood sampling, and the people that had a pretty low dose of vitamin C, I think it was only like 2,000 milligrams or something. They had like less than half the amount of cortisol as the control group. So if you experience stress and you're taking a decent sized dose of vitamin C every day, you'll consciously be like, oh, this is a stressful situation, but you don't feel it in your body. Like that feeling of stress that you get in your body, that's the cortisol. You just don't have it. You're like, oh, okay, I guess this is stressful, but whatever, I'm going to handle it. And your vitamin C, you should get that as pure ascorbic acid. And it should be non-GMO. Over 90% of vitamin C is made from fermented corn. Corn is one of the most genetically modified crops on earth. The reason why they do that is so they can spray it with glyphosate, which is a really nasty herbicide that causes leaky gut, cancer, systemic inflammation in the body, all kinds of things. So if you just run into a grocery store and you buy vitamin C, it probably has glyphosate in it. It's really hard to find stuff that doesn't. And it's a huge bummer because it's supposed to be this healthy thing. And then it just has a bunch of herbicide in it. I mean, isn't that crazy?
It is. Yeah. You think you're doing something good for yourself and then you don't know what to look for. So you just get something off the shelf thinking it's good, not realizing that it's not. Yeah,
it's wild. So I created a whole program based on high dose vitamin C. Back in the 1960s, there's a doctor named Dr. Cathcart in California, and he worked with Linus Pauling, the Nobel Prize winner. He's a big fan of vitamin C. And together they figured out how to precisely dose vitamin C to hit something called bowel tolerance, which means you have full plasma saturation of vitamin C, and anything your body doesn't need then just flushes out. That's how you know you've reached full cell saturation. And then it just fixes, like, whatever your body needs fixing with, it just gets handled when you have that much vitamin C in you. So if you're dealing with all kinds of stress or that goes away. Like, you feel really good, you'll have energy. If you've been getting sick often, or you have a persistent kind of weird illness, or you're always feeling under the weather and it's just not going away, this can support your body healing from that, because now you flood your body with energy, and then your body's going to take and use that energy to fix whatever's in front of it. It's kind of like your body's own native healing intelligence. So I created a program around that. It comes with a program that walks you step by step how to do a vitamin C flush. And I think, I do still have the free offer up. So if you cover shipping, I'll send you the program and 20,000 milligrams of glyphosate free non-GMO vitamin C. I think the shipping's it's only like $5.95. I need to raise that because of inflation and all the other shipping companies coming up. But you can reach that at purevitamincflush.com. So again, that's purevitamincflush.com, and you get the program plus 20,000 milligrams of vitamin C. And that one's been cool. I mean, I do one of those a month to kind of reset my body's levels of vitamin C and to flush out anything. And then I take 8,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C.
Yeah. And I remember when I think it was on my first or second flush that I did. And Chrissy and I we go walking. I don't know if I ever told you this story. We go walking at least like 6 miles. We were really consistent about it last year during COVID when you couldn't do anything else. But and then one time it was like right after the flush, I'm like running up there's like 100 steps that I never even look at. But then this time I just was like running up those steps and down. And you're right when you said it's a big battery charger, because that's what it felt like. Like I had this spurt of energy.
That's so cool. You had that experience. Yeah. And that's why, health can get so complicated. And people overcomplicate it, and no wonder we do. It's not your fault if you've overcomplicated it, because you're like, oh, I should be plant-based, or oh, I should do yoga, or oh, I should do carnivore, or oh, I need to take 37 supplements, or I need to just be a fitness fanatic. But what ties all of that together? What ties it together? There's got to be something at a base level that ties it together, right? Like, what makes yoga the same as detox, the same as eating animal products or eating, plants or taking supplements? At a base level, if something is healthy, it gives your cells electrons. That's it. And if something is unhealthy, it steals electrons. So if something is healthy, it charges your cell batteries up. If something is unhealthy, it discharges your cell batteries. It steals voltage from them. So, if you go out and you eat a bunch of processed food, that food, is not donating electrons. It actually is stealing them. And that is the process of inflammation. Inflammation steals electricity from your cells. It takes. And then your immune system has to give electricity back to damp down the inflammation. And that robs you of energy. That's how that whole thing works. So, like, an easy way to explain it, most people have heard of antioxidants, like vitamin C is an antioxidant. There's even an alcohol brand called Truly now that has vitamin C in it. Well, what is an antioxidant? What is oxidation? Oxidation is inflammation. Oxidation is taking electrons, taking electrical charge from your body. Antioxidants are electron donors. They're antioxidation. So they're giving electrical current. They're giving electrons back. So our job as humans is to catch as many electrons as we can and do that. Does that kind of help?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love that you went a few different ways with this, where you talked about that, what was it? The psychological, looking back at my notes, you talked about like psychological stress and how your body stores that stuff. And then even talking about with the vitamin C and how that helps release cortisol in your body.
Yes.
And for me, like with my kind of healing journey, I got into like Body Keeps the Score. That book's a little crazy. So for me, I liked, I don't know if you read Personality Isn't Permanent.
I haven't.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And that one was like the biggest one for me to see how your body really does keep in all this stuff and how important it is to release it. So I think this was a really great way for people to see not only how to release all of this stress that we hold on to, but then also how to recharge, and recharge your body with energy.
Yeah. And I know we've been talking for a while. I do want to finish up, because this is really important for folks listening, especially people experiencing burnout, is that, nutrient replenishment, which is what we just covered, that's half of the coin. The other side of the coin is detox, because your body over time accumulates materials in it that drain your batteries down. And it's a real problem. And I will say, the biggest needle movers in my case were detox. It was just freaking massive. The difference in my mood, my energy levels, like my focus at work, when I'm doing high demand cognitive activities, is huge. So let's talk about that. So super easy concept. Let's take a common toxin. Let's take any toxin. So like most people have heard of heavy metals. So that's like lead, cadmium, mercury. We're all full of that, unfortunately. And I'll give you a super easy way to get that out. Those go into your mitochondria and they mess with the electrical conductivity of them. And so the current is not flowing around in your cells in your body as it should. And also they cause a lot of inflammation, or they steal electrons, and then your body has to donate electrons to keep the inflammation down. And that's just heavy metals. But then if you look at these other things, like the plastics you get, and by the way, when something says BPA free, all they did is change the molecule one step. And so now there's BPC, BPP, BPD, BPE. It does the same damage in your body. It's just a marketing thing.
Yeah.
No plastic is safe. But what do those molecules have? Well, they have the wrong electrical charge. They also steal electrons from your body. Okay, so you live next to a busy road. What's going on there? Well, the tires are aerosolized and they release a toxin called 6-PPD. 6-PPD is known in the Pacific Northwest to kill large vertebrate fish in streams next to busy roads. What do you think it's doing to us? You inhale that, but at a base biophysics level, what's going on? It has the wrong electrical charge. It steals electrons from you. So how do you get rid of this stuff? Well, one way to do it, I'm going to start most hardcore, and then I'm going to work my way backwards because I think this will be entertaining for people. So the first way is free. It is also super hardcore, and I'm actually starting one tomorrow. So,
oh wow!
The first thing you can do is a 7-day dry fast, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You don't eat or drink water for 7 days, and I know it sounds insane. However, I'm going to tell you, there's a book on this called the Phoenix Protocol. It's written by a guy named August Dunning. August Dunning wasn't just some random dude. He was an engineer for NASA, and he was tasked with the problem of solving radiation damage for astronauts on a Mars mission. And basically, he determined you can't. There's not enough shielding that you can get up there to handle this issue. But what you can do is you can fix radiation damage after it happens by doing a dry fast. And so there's 50 years of Russian research on this concept. And good old August Dunning took that research and he wrote a book on it for us in English. And you can find that book. He also has a YouTube channel. And it's kind of interesting. He only started dry fasting in 2019. And when you first see him in 2019, you look at this guy on his YouTube channel and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I want to take advice from this guy kind of based on his appearance. And then when you get to 2022, because he does 2 dry fasts a year, he literally de-ages in front of your eyes. It's kind of wild.
Wow.
But that's super hardcore, not for everyone. And you really got to plan around it. Basically what happens is your body rips apart all the fat cells in your body, and the fat cells release a lot of water, and more than enough. And because you keep urinating the whole time, and then that water pushes toxins out from your cells. The second method, and I've done this 4 or 5 times at this point, is a sauna and niacin detox. So niacin is vitamin B3. Vitamin B3 combined with heat breaks down your fat cells. Your fat cells are where most toxins are sequestered in your body. It seals them off from active circulation. So when you do a sauna and niacin detox, you are breaking apart all your fat cells. And then when you're in the sauna, you excrete all of the toxins that go into your bloodstream through your sweat. And I would say if you have access to an infrared sauna, do it. It's a no-brainer. The recommended length is 21 days, and you're supposed to do it 21 days in a row. But I've had fantastic results doing them for 8 days, 10 days, something like that. And vitamin B3 niacin it's super cheap, and it really helps improve your mood a lot too if you're deficient in it. So that's the sauna and niacin detox. Now getting down to kind of more the gentle ones. Well, cool thing about vitamin C is an antitoxin. So vitamin C has been used for decades, rattlesnake bites, radiation toxicity, some heavy metals exposure. It's a very good antitoxin. So I take 2 teaspoons. 1 teaspoon is 4,000 milligrams, but I take 2 of those per day. And that just is a good general daily detox. I also take humic and fulvic acid. So humic and fulvic acid used to be really prevalent in our soils. It's now gone through commercial farming practices. And humic and fulvic is particularly good at removing glyphosate. So remember, we were talking about that nasty herbicide it's basically in everything that causes a leaky gut and crazy inflammation. Well, this removes that, and it helps seal a leaky gut shut. And it also is pretty good at removing heavy metals. So that's humic and fulvic acid. I actually manufacture one because I couldn't find a clean one that was high enough dose. And that's at BioRecharge.com. I have that, and I use a boutique manufacturer. So most of the time it's in stock, but sometimes it sells out, and it takes me a little while to refill it. And then a really cool thing you can do that hardly anybody knows about, and I do recommend you to be cautious with this one because at first it can be overwhelming for people. But there is an amino acid made from vinegar called EDTA. EDTA. And EDTA is amazing for getting lead, mercury, and cadmium out of your body. It's really strong. It's also super cheap. You can go to bulk supplements. You can get yourself some disodium EDTA for like $25. That'll last you over a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And that is something I take every day. So there's a very good book on EDTA called Detox with Oral Chelation. And it's written by a doctor named Dr. Gary Gordon, and Gary spelled with 2 R's. The reason why you might want to read that book, particularly if you use your brain a lot for work, is that he goes over exactly how to dose EDTA and kind of the effects it has in the body. But basically, it gets the lead out, gets the mercury out, and it does it really fast. And what's crazy is the heavy metal, it lowers your intelligence a lot. And so Gary he headed up the $30 million National Institute of Health study where they like track people's intelligence, and they had people adding like 12, 14 points to their IQ after they got the heavy metals out. Isn't that wild?
Insane.
Yeah.
That is so insane.
And they did a survey of prison populations, and the majority of the inmates, especially the ones in there for violent offenses, they had like super high lead readings in their tissue, and lead increases aggression and it lowers intelligence.
Dang.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
So
like
wild.
The whole toxicology thing is crazy, but EDTA, that's such an easy hack. It gets the metals out. I take it every day. But again, if you have never done any detox at all, you're going to have a lot of heavy metals in your tissues, and it can be overwhelming for people. So you really want to space it out. If you're going to take EDTA, you take like 1/5 of a teaspoon, and you might do that once a week to start. It's really strong, but I've had, so many people have contacted me that have done it because I put it in one of my newsletters. I don't even sell it, but men and women have had some pretty crazy results, both with mood, energy, and some of the men, especially like they've let's just say their morning wood was a lot better because lead interferes with nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is a molecule that increases blood flow, and so lead blocks that. Through food we intake an amino acid called arginine, and it blocks the convert, like it doesn't allow arginine to do its job. And so I've gotten guys on EDTA, and I'll get phone calls or emails, and they're like, hey man, like this is bad, I can't walk around like this, I don't know what's going on. And it's from all of a sudden their nitric oxide production came back online. So think how many guys are walking around and they have these ED problems, and they try to cover it up with Viagra, and really they're just full of lead.
Yeah, it's so amazing to me how there's just these little hacks that people don't know about, and if they just could keep their mind open enough to learn a little bit more, how much more their life would be. It's
crazy. And that was my case too. Like I grew up on a farm, did a lot of agricultural work. So I was exposed to like a ton of stuff, like heavy metals, herbicides, pesticides, you name it. And when I started doing detox, I literally got smarter, and you can't put a price on that. Not that I'm the smartest guy around. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like one day I was sitting at my computer and I was solving all these problems that like I had launched a new marketing funnel. Of course, everything broke, and like none of the support people could figure it out. And I was sitting there trying to solve the problem. And then I just got it done. And then later that night, I was like, wow, I used to get so frustrated with tech stuff. Like, what changed? And then I just realized I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit smarter, like, because my brain's working better.
Yeah, I did that once. I did this actually you recommended, there was some cleanse I did. I'm trying to remember. It wasn't the liver one. It was the other one. And you had to do this fruit diet for like a week. And I remember like by the end of it, I was like, I am the Matrix. I have so much clarity and no mental fog. And it really does, when you do things like this, it really does show you how you can feel, when you're fully able to knock things out of your body, basically.
Yeah. And that's why I like this physical approach too, because, if you're burnt out and then someone tells you, well, you just need to change your mindset. And then you try to change your mindset and you still feel like shit and you're not getting as much done as you want. It just makes you feel bad. And I think it's irresponsible to tell people you just need to change your mindset and change how you think. And then you're going to be more productive. You won't procrastinate. That's just not true. If that person is filled with toxins, they're nutrient deprived, their cells are operating at 50% efficiency, energy production, no amount of mental techniques are going to help. It's just going to make them feel worse and more burned out. And that's what happened to me. I was every once in a while, going to a motivational seminar, and that's why I didn't want to go to the Tony Robbins one. It's like, well, these don't work. I don't want to do it. Tony, to his credit, the last day of his seminars, he has a health day, because he realized in his business a long time ago, if you have these people in the audience that are filled with lead and starved of A, D, and K and have never taken vitamin C, like there's only so much you can do with the mental techniques. So you got to give them credit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been, so valuable, even beyond, because I already know you and I know what you provide, but this is so freaking good. So I appreciate you going through this so much. And
well, good.
I think it's amazing because you are right. Whenever you're having some kind of mental health challenge or low energy or whatever it is, so many people go straight to the mindset. And I do think mindset is obviously important.
It's huge.
Yeah. But to focus on the health and then kind of understand that, and I honestly, I don't think I even understood inflammation as well as you were able to just explain it. And I love the way that you are able to kind of phrase things in analogies. I don't even think I ever understood mitochondria before. And you're able to just really simplify things in a way that makes it fascinating to learn. So I think that's really cool. Oh, will you share too? And I want to ask you the biggest thing advice, but before I forget, will you also share, because I love your videos also. Do you want to share your YouTube, or can they get that on your website, or what is that? All that stuff.
That is a great question and super funny you asked that. So this is one of those tech challenges. I was transferring over an account and I accidentally deleted my YouTube channel.
No.
And I know. And I was
love your videos.
I know. I was so sad. One of the videos, the one on 5G, had something like over 300,000 views.
Wow.
I am relaunching that. And so I would say the best option for people to get in touch with me and just, I have a newsletter that I send out a minimum of once a week, and it's mainly content. And it's interesting stuff, but it all comes down to, how do we produce more energy in our cells? So if you want to get on that newsletter list for free, you can go to get5gbook.com, and that'll get you on my newsletter list. And then you'll get a little program that I wrote on EMF and 5G. And it even includes what supplements to take to kind of help combat what's going on with EMF. If you want to try out either one of my products, and it'll still get you onto my newsletter list, that's purevitamincflush.com or getbiorecharge.com, which is the humic and fulvic supplement that I have manufactured. And that's the easiest way. I am relaunching the YouTube channel and the brochure site I had. But Skynet always out to get me.
Well, you know what? It's cool. Well, yeah, they know what you're doing with 5G.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like getting you back. No, but
I'm surprised that video is up as long as it was, to be honest.
I think it's cool though, because it's, again, you got to see, okay, what is the worst case? My YouTube channel, which was freaking amazing, went down, and it's like, here you are, you're still at it, and it's like that bankruptcy analogy you gave earlier. I think most people, that would be a huge fear for them, but the way you're talking about it now, it's kind of cool.
It's fine. It was a bummer when it happened, but like I had a joint venture partner with basically another aspect of a health business. And, we dissolved that relationship. Everything was good. It wasn't crazy. He wasn't throwing a cell phone at me or anything like an old real estate guy. And during the transfer of the assets, it's just one of those things that happens in business, and it's fine, whatever, I'll relaunch it. Oh, and before we go, regarding toxins, real quick. So once you feed your cells the nutrients they need, which we already went over, and once you do like basic detox, which really is going to be getting the metals out and some of the other stuff, and you're feeling good about that. The last journey is emotional toxins. And I thought this was bullshit for years until I actually did it, because there's still something missing when I was the most detoxed and energized I'd ever been. And, a good person to read up on this is Dr. Jerry Tennant. And, I think he's 87 now. He's still going strong. Just published a book last year. But he talks about how emotions that no longer serve you, or negative emotions, they actually are stored in your body. And they're stored in the tissue in your body, and they rob you of energy too, because it takes energy for your body and your unconscious to suppress those negative emotions. And so, we're done. We're out of time. But if you just want to go get this handled and get it out of your body, there is a therapy called Psych K. It's kind of a weird name. It's Rob Williams, the name of the guy that started decades ago. Psych K, letter K. And I tell you, if you want to just get bad things out of your body, you feel like you have some repressed emotions that aren't serving you, this is like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't even know how it works. I just know they come out and you feel so much more light and energetic afterwards. So I wanted to throw that out there because I did a lot of different emotional healing journeys. They all work. They're all awesome. I recommend all of them are good. Anything from, somatic therapy to psychedelics to all kinds of different things. But in my own personal journey, by the end of it, I was like, I just want to get this stuff out of my body, and I don't need another 6-week recovery period from ayahuasca. What can I go do? And that was Psych K. And I learned about Psych K through Dr. Lipton, Bruce Lipton. He wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. And the book's about exactly what it sounds, about how your beliefs can change your biology. And he was never able to really help people with that theory until he met Rob Williams, the founder of Psych K, who, and literally it's like 30 minutes and you can get like decades of crap out of your body. It's insane.
Wow. So, that's cool. Yeah. What a great resource.
Yeah. So
question for you, Ted. Okay. Yep. So you gave so much. Oh, by the way, you guys, when you sign up for his stuff, his professional name is Theo. I just call him Ted. So don't be surprised. So Ted and Theo are the same person.
Yep. Theodore is the real name. Yep.
Oh, Theodore. Okay. Gotcha. Yep. And so, so out of everything you just said or anything new, what would be your number one piece of advice for the listeners on doing the thing?
Act, then know, then decide. Whether it's health, whether it's your business, just do something, like take an action, do something that moves the needle, and then see what happens, and then decide what to do.
So perfect. Well, thanks so much for coming on. This has been incredible. And I appreciate you as a person and just what you do in business, and just you're very inspiring. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Stacey. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Do the Thing podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, but even more, we hope you'll be inspired to do the thing. Do you have a burning question on doing the thing that you'd like answered? How about an inspiring do the thing story of your own that you'd like to share? We'd love to hear all about it. Just leave us a voice message at dothething.callcast.co or email us at hello@dothethingpodcast.com.